Welcome to lesson 2 on Moses in our Rooted Devotional series through the characters of the Old Testament. And this time I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off last time at the end of chapter 2, verses 13 and following. What it says happens after Moses kills the Egyptian is that he comes upon 2 Hebrew men the next day fighting with each other, and he stops the one. And why are you beating your brother? And this man says, "Who are you to judge?" Just like us, right? Who are you think you are? And he says, "Are you going to kill me like you did the Egyptian?" And Moses is struck with fear, and he realizes that what it says in the scriptures. He says, "What I did is certainly known." And he does what we all want to do. We don't want to be found out to start with, but when we are found out, what he does next is our first inclination: we run. We try to hide or flee. I talked about it with Adam in the very first lesson in this series. The critical error Adam and Eve made, I think, besides disobeying God, is hiding from God. They hid and didn't want to be found out. That's what we want. And so Moses does the thing that we want to do. And I think it's a question we ought to ask all the time. What are you running from? What are you hiding from? What are you afraid has been found out, and you're running from it rather than admitting it, confessing it to God, and dealing with it? It's all of our natural inclination. Here's the thing, though. The tragedy of running from our sin or trying to hide from God is that it never works, right? You probably figured that out. If you're trying to run, you can't get away from it because you carry it with you. You can't get away from God because he's everywhere. And so this thing that we all do, it never, ever works. And then in chapter 3, God calls Moses. That chapter 3 is the burning bush. It's one of these fantastic stories of God reaching out to call someone to a great mission. And what's Moses do? Struck with the presence of God and God's call in his life, he starts to make excuses why he's not qualified. Oh, God, what if they ask me your name? What am I supposed to tell them then? God, what if they don't listen? God, I can't speak well. He's got all these excuses. And I don't think it's just about the physical limitations he has, although it suggests that he does have some physical limitations. I think what's echoing in his mind is that I tried this before and it didn't work. I tried to do this. I tried to rescue your people from the Egyptians. I killed that Egyptian and that didn't work. I failed. And I think that's why he makes excuses. That's how it all works. And so we ought to ask, what are we running from? Because here's the thing. God wants to forgive that. Now, Moses took matters in his own hands. He did what God wanted in a way that God didn't want. In freeing his people, he did that, not killing the Egyptian. He didn't want that. That's the way God didn't want. Moses was wrong. But God wants to forgive. God wants to forgive you. Whatever you're running from, God wants to forgive it. And he says there's only one thing you got to do, and that's confess and say, God, you're right. You're right. When we confess, it's not like a police confession. We don't give him information that God doesn't already have, right? He already knows. What we do when we confess is we agree with him about what is right and what is wrong, about who is right, him, and who is wrong, us. Confession is not very easy, but God says he's ready to forgive every time we confess. It's a guarantee. Now here's the thing that's not a guarantee. There may be consequences with other people, and that can be scary. And bearing the consequences may not always go well. God always forgives. People don't always forgive. And that just may be the way it is. But can I tell you this? The only possibility of freedom from our past is confession, is going to God and to people and admitting where we messed it up. That's the only possible path to freedom. It's the only way that'll work. Hiding never works. Running never works. So what sin are you running from? What might happen if you stopped and dealt with it, confessed it to God and confessed it to people? And then what responsibility are you scared of? That's what Moses was, scared of the responsibility, right? Notice God's promise. I will certainly be with you. That's in chapter 3 of Exodus. Moses, I will certainly be with you. Jesus repeats that to us through the Great Commission. He says, I will certainly be with you from now to the end of the age as you follow me. And we underestimate it terribly, right? Moses underestimated God's presence, the gift of God's presence. And we do the same. We are afraid of things because we underestimate God's presence with us as we follow him. And so I want to encourage you to be a part of what God is doing and to be brave and to not underestimate his presence. And I would love to help you with that. We at Union Hill would love to help you with that, to be a family around you to help find God's purpose in your life and help you experience what it means for God to be with you in daily life. I hope you'll reach out to us, and I hope you'll join us again next time.